Have you ever wondered why some people effortlessly command a room while others fade into the background? It is rarely about intelligence or looks. What if the secret lies in the tiny subconscious signals you broadcast every second? From the way you smile to how you stand, your body is telling a story. Are you ready to rewrite that autobiography? Can you master the split-second tricks that turn strangers into allies and awkward silences into deep connections? The difference between blending in and standing out might be smaller than you think. This summary of How to Talk to Anyone by Leil Lowndes outlines the specific techniques successful people use to master communication. It moves beyond basic advice to explore the subconscious signals of body language, from the flooding smile to the power of eye contact. You will learn how to navigate social anxiety, work a room with confidence, and turn small talk into meaningful rapport. By mastering these actionable tricks, you can transform your professional and personal relationships, ensuring you always appear confident, credible, and charismatic. Ready to go deeper? Here's the extended summary of How to Talk to Anyone. Highly successful individuals, those who appear to have it all, rarely achieve their status through superior intelligence, education, or appearance alone. Instead, their secret lies in a more skillful way of dealing with other human beings. These big winners have mastered the art of communication, allowing them to capture hearts and minds, and inspiring others to help them ascend the social and corporate ladders. While those who struggle often blame external factors like snobbery or exclusive networks, the true culprit is frequently their own communication fumbles. To bridge the gap between being ordinary and becoming a superstar, we must look beyond the timeless but incomplete advice of Dale Carnegie. While Carnegie taught us what to do, like smiling and showing interest, he did not explain how to execute these gestures in a way that persuades a modern, skeptical audience. Today, a superficial approach often fails. To truly connect, one must master the specific, actionable techniques that successful leaders use to signal confidence and charisma. This mastery begins the moment you enter a room. You have only about 10 seconds to show you are a somebody. Before you speak a single word, your body is already broadcasting your autobiography. Research suggests that over 80% of a first impression is based solely on how you look and move. This creates an instant mental snapshot, a brilliant holograph that forms a lasting judgment in the observer's mind. To ensure this snapshot depicts you as intelligent, strong, and charismatic, you must consciously manage your nonverbal cues. Consider the smile. We are often told to smile instantly when meeting someone, but a quick, automatic grin can feel plastic or generic. To make your smile truly potent, use the flooding smile. When you meet someone, do not flash a smile immediately. Instead, look at their face for a second, pause to soak in their persona, and then let a big, warm smile flood over your face and into your eyes. This split-second delay convinces the recipient that your smile is genuine and meant specifically for them, making the interaction feel personal and special. Your eyes are equally powerful tools for connection. Intense eye contact can trigger feelings of respect and affection, sometimes even mimicking the physical reactions associated with falling in love. To harness this, use the sticky eyes technique. Pretend your eyes are glued to your conversation partner's eyes with sticky, warm taffy. When you must look away, do so slowly and reluctantly. This signals deep comprehension and respect. A more advanced variation, epoxy eyes, involves focusing your gaze on a specific target even when someone else is speaking. This demonstrates that you are intensely interested in their reactions, although it should be used with caution to avoid appearing aggressive or intimidating. Finally, your posture acts as a barometer of your success. To achieve the perfect alignment of a winner, try the hang by your teeth visualization. Imagine a leather bit hanging in the frame of every doorway you pass through. As you walk under it, pretend to bite down on it, throwing your head back and lifting your body. This simple mental trick aligns your spine, lifts your head, and instantly gives you the physical presence of a leader. With your head held high and your body aligned, you are ready to make an entrance. But posture is only the foundation. The moment you engage with someone, they are subconsciously asking themselves a single question: how do you like me so far? To answer this affirmatively, you need to master the art of the welcome. Think about how you greet a small child. You rarely just glance over your shoulder or offer a half-hearted wave. You turn your entire body toward them, beaming with undivided attention. Adults, it turns out, crave this same validation. This brings us to the big baby pivot. When you are introduced to someone new, do not give them a partial turn. Pivot your entire body 100% toward them. This total physical commitment signals that you think they are special, fulfilling their deep-seated need for recognition. It aligns with the wisdom that people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. However, social anxiety can sometimes make this level of enthusiasm difficult. If you find yourself feeling shy or critical, your body language might betray you before you even speak. To counter this, use the hello old friend technique. The moment you spot someone you want to meet, play a mental trick on yourself. Visualize them as a dear, long-lost friend you haven't seen in years. This internal shift triggers a cascade of positive physical reactions. Your eyebrows soften, your smile becomes genuine, and your stance opens up naturally. It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Act as if you like them, and you likely will, and they will almost certainly like you back. Being liked is essential, but being believed is critical. You must appear credible. Unfortunately, nervousness often mimics dishonesty. If you touch your face, wring your hands, or shift in your seat, listeners instinctively feel you are hiding something, even if you are simply uncomfortable. This is why you must limit the fidget. When the conversation counts, consciously suppress all extraneous movement. Do not itch your nose, adjust your collar, or tap your foot. By remaining still, you project an aura of absolute truthfulness and intelligence. While you are controlling your own signals, you must also keenly observe the signals of others. This concept is known as Hans's horse sense, named after a famous horse that appeared to solve math problems, but was actually just reading the subtle tension and relaxation in the audience. To be a master communicator, you must operate on a dual track, expressing your own thoughts while simultaneously monitoring your listeners' reactions. Watch for the slight frown, the shifting weight, or the relaxed shoulder, and adjust your approach in real time. Finally, none of this needs to happen by accident. Just as elite athletes visualize their races to ensure victory, you can employ the technique called watch the scene before you make the scene. Before attending a party or a high-stakes meeting, close your eyes and mentally rehearse the interaction. See yourself standing tall, smiling warmly, and moving with purpose. When you visualize yourself as a super somebody, your body naturally follows the script when the real moment arrives, making these sophisticated social skills feel automatic. Once you have mentally rehearsed your success, you are ready to engage. But for many, this is where the panic sets in. Even top executives who can command a boardroom often dread the initial moments of social interaction. They view small talk as trivial, or worse, terrifying. However, you must reframe this. Small talk is not about conveying information. It is the welcome mat of conversation. It is the music that soothes the savage beast of social anxiety. To master it, you do not need to be brilliant. You simply need to be attuned. This brings us to the concept of matching the mood before you open your mouth. Communication is not just words. It is melody. Before you speak, listen to the music of the room. Is the other person playing an adagio, slow and relaxed, or an allegro, fast and energetic? If you try to force high-energy wit on someone who is feeling sluggish, you will crash and burn. This is the essence of the technique called make a mood match. Consider a moment when you are stuck in a slow elevator. If you sigh and say, "This thing is so slow," and a companion responds with a technical explanation of elevator mechanics, you feel disconnected. You didn't want facts. You wanted empathy. You wanted someone to match your mood. Effective communicators assess the listener's emotional state and mirror it, even just for a sentence, to establish rapport. It is akin to a mother soothing a crying child. She doesn't argue with the baby. She matches its intensity before calming it down. Once you have matched the mood, you might wonder, what do I actually say? The answer is surprisingly simple: anything. This is the technique known as prosaic with passion. You do not need a dazzling opening line. In fact, 80% of a listener's first impression comes from your tone and demeanor, not your vocabulary. You can talk about the weather, the traffic, or the venue, provided you do so with warmth and sincerity. The goal of the opening line is not to impress, but to signal that you are friendly, safe, and approachable. To make these opening moments easier, you can also employ a few practical props. Use a "what's it?", an unusual tie, a unique pin, or an interesting accessory to give others a natural excuse to ask you questions. Conversely, become a "what's it" seeker yourself, scanning the room for items on others that invite inquiry. If that fails, use the "who's at" technique by asking the host for a bit of background on a stranger, or simply eavesdrop in by waiting for a familiar word in a nearby conversation and politely joining the fray. Once the conversation has started, your primary job is to keep the ball rolling. A common mistake is answering questions with a single word, which acts like a stop sign. If someone asks where you are from, and you simply say Chicago, the conversation stalls. This leads us to the technique called "never the naked city." Always clothe your answer with a hook. A fascinating fact, a bit of history, or a relatable detail about your hometown. If you are talking to a history buff, mention a historical landmark. If you are speaking to a foodie, mention the deep dish pizza. This gives your partner conversational bait to grab onto. The same rule applies to your profession. Never use the naked job technique. A simple job title often means nothing to the listener. Instead, flesh it out with a mini story or a specific example of a problem you solve. Give them something to chew on. And finally, when you are the one connecting two people, never use the naked introduction. Do not just state their names and walk away. Introduce them with a hook, a shared interest, or a compliment, so they have an immediate platform on which to build their own dialogue. By providing that extra detail, perhaps mentioning that John has a wonderful boat or that Susan is the editor of a gourmet magazine, you save these new acquaintances from the awkward silence of searching for a topic. You have given them a bridge to discuss travel, the ocean, writing, or food. If a person's job is sensitive or dull, mention a talent or hobby instead, like, "Gilbert's true gift is sculpting." This ensures the dialogue flows naturally from the very first second. But what happens when a conversation starts to sputter? To keep it alive, you must become a word detective. Listen intently for unusual references, those slight deviations or digressions that reveal what the other person actually wants to discuss. For instance, if a neighbor mentions that the rain is good for the plants, do not just agree about the weather. That reference to plants is a clue. By asking about her garden, you might uncover a deep passion or a cherished memory, transforming a polite exchange into a genuine connection. The rule is simple. If someone introduces a topic, they likely have a relationship with it. Follow that clue. Another way to captivate people is to keep the focus entirely on them, a technique called the swiveling spotlight. Truly confident communicators know that they learn more by listening than by speaking. Imagine a spotlight shining on the conversation. Keep it trained on your partner. The longer you keep them illuminated, the more interesting they will find you. If you find yourself completely stuck, unable to think of a single new topic, use the parroting technique. Simply repeat the last 2 or 3 words your companion said, but with a questioning intonation. If they say, "I really love the theater," you simply ask, "The theater?" This throws the ball back into their court and compels them to elaborate. It is a powerful tool, not just for social chatting, but for uncovering hidden needs. A savvy car salesman might parrot a customer's wish for a car that fits their personality to reveal a secret desire for a sporty vehicle. In group settings, you can make others feel like big winners by using the encore technique. This involves prompting a friend to retell a specific positive story you have heard before. You might say, "Tell them about the time you rescued that crew at sea." This allows your friend to shine without bragging. And because you requested it, the group listens attentively. Just be sure to choose a story where the teller is the hero, not the punchline. Preparation is just as important as execution. You wouldn't walk into a party wearing dirty clothes, so don't walk in with an empty mind. Read the news before you go. Scanning the headlines gives you conversational fodder that can save you when the chat dries up. Finally, reconsider how you ask about work. The standard question, "What do you do?" can be socially clumsy. It might make people feel defined solely by their job, or worse, embarrass those who are unemployed or between engagements. A more gracious alternative is to ask, "How do you spend most of your time?" This open-ended phrasing allows the other person to choose their label, whether they want to talk about their profession, their children, or their hobbies. It signals that you value them as a human being, not just an economic unit. Conversely, when someone asks you about your work, do not give a generic answer. Tailor your response to the listener's interests, creating a nutshell resume that highlights the aspects of your life most likely to intrigue that specific person. Think of this as crafting a benefit statement, a strategy borrowed from top salespeople. When a prospect asks what they sell, a great salesperson doesn't just name the product, they articulate the specific problem it solves. You should do the same for your own life. If you are a real estate agent, avoid the dry title. Instead, tell a young couple, "I help people find the perfect home for their growing families." If you are a financial planner, say, "I help people secure their financial future." By reframing your job as a service that helps others, you become memorable and significant in their eyes. Now let's look at the specific words you use to paint that picture. Technique number 26 is called your personal thesaurus. Research suggests that the difference between a mundane vocabulary and a respected verbally elite one often boils down to just 50 words. To bridge this gap, identify the repetitive, tired words you use daily, words like smart, good, or nice. Then hunt for richer synonyms. Instead of calling a colleague smart, describe them as resourceful or ingenious. Instead of saying a party was wonderful, call it splendid or extraordinary. Just as new shoes feel stiff at first but become comfortable with wear, these new words will eventually roll off your tongue naturally, making you sound more creative and intelligent. Once you have the right words, you must also master the timing of your responses. Technique number 27 is kill the quick "me too." We often interrupt people to build rapport, shouting, "Me too, I love skiing," the moment they mention the slopes. While well-intentioned, this can make you seem anxious for validation. A big winner plays it cool. If someone is passionately describing their love for skiing, let them enjoy their monologue. Let them finish their story completely. Only then should you casually mention that you also ski, or perhaps that you just returned from Aspen. This delayed revelation has a much stronger impact, portraying you as confident enough to listen rather than competing for the spotlight. This focus on the other person leads directly to technique number 28, communication. Human beings are inherently self-centered. We are constantly filtering information through the lens of, "How does this affect me?" You can leverage this by sprinkling the word "you" throughout your conversation. Instead of framing requests around your own needs, frame them around the listener's interests. For example, rather than asking your boss, "Can I take Friday off?" try asking, "Can you do without me on Friday?" It conveys the same message, but triggers the listener's pride and consideration. Finally, refine your style by eliminating cliches and euphemisms. High-level communicators, the big cats, avoid worn-out phrases like "happy as a lark" because they signal a lack of imagination. They also avoid cutesy euphemisms, preferring to call a spade a spade. Direct, original language commands respect. Whether you are describing your job, complimenting a friend, or asking for a favor, the goal is to be distinct, attentive, and relentlessly focused on the person standing in front of you. Along with using direct language, you must strictly eliminate teasing from your repertoire. While you might think you are being playful, teasing is a little cat behavior that often stems from insecurity. It creates a glass ceiling in your relationships because, ultimately, people do not enjoy being the butt of a joke. Respect is the currency of a big cat, and that means never making a joke at someone else's expense. This sensitivity becomes even more critical when you have to deliver bad news. In these moments, remember a rule called "it's the receiver's ball." The most important element is not how you feel, but how the listener will feel. If you are delivering sad news, you must adopt a sympathetic demeanor. Think of how a doctor delivers a difficult diagnosis. They do not smile or try to lighten the mood. If a hotel clerk cheerfully tells a tired traveler their room isn't ready, the traveler gets angry at the clerk's attitude, not just the situation. To be a winner, align your emotion with the recipient's likely reaction. On the flip side, When you are the one facing unwelcome questions, perhaps about a divorce or a business failure, you need a defense strategy. This is where the broken record comes in. Instead of getting flustered or over-explaining, simply repeat your prepared response using the exact same words and tone. If someone asks about a sensitive topic, you might say, "We've separated, but the company is unaffected." If they press further, say it again. "We've separated, but the company is unaffected." This effectively shuts down the interrogation without a fight. Handling high-status individuals requires a different kind of restraint. When you encounter a celebrity or a VIP, the rule is simple: big shots don't slobber. Maintain your composure. If you approach them, do so when they are leaving, and keep it brief. Instead of a generic compliment like, "I love your work," tell them specifically how much insight or pleasure their work gave you. Focus on their current projects rather than the past. By treating them with dignity rather than fandom, you stand out as an equal. In your everyday interactions, there is a small tweak that can pay huge dividends. Never use the naked thank you. The phrase "thank you" all by itself is like a distinct, empty sound. Always follow it with the word "for." Say "thank you for asking," "thank you for coming," or "thank you for waiting." This turns a robotic reflex into a meaningful acknowledgement. Finally, to truly connect with anyone, you must overcome the silent outsider syndrome. This happens when you are surrounded by people discussing a niche hobby or profession, and you feel completely lost. The solution is scramble therapy. Once a month, do something totally out of your routine. Go to a lecture, visit a flower show, or try a sport. You don't need to become an expert. One exposure gives you 80% of the conversational value. You will learn the insider lingo, or gobbledygook, that allows you to ask intelligent opening questions. Instead of asking a writer, "How is the book coming?" which is an outsider question, you can ask, "Do you write fiction or nonfiction?" If you meet a dentist, ask if they are in general practice or have a specialty. You can even scan trade journals or the classified ads to learn the hot-button issues in different fields. By arming yourself with just a few insider terms and questions, you transform from a silent observer into a fascinating conversationalist who seems to know a little bit about everything. This distinction between being an insider and an outsider is often defined by a single word. If you are talking to a ship captain and you refer to his vessel as a boat when it is a ship, you have immediately demoted yourself to a landlubber. But if you address him as master or ask about his command, you are suddenly part of the fraternity. This applies everywhere. In the advertising world, text is copy, and an agency is a shop. Using the correct terminology doesn't just make you sound smart. It signals that you share the same values and experiences. However, when you step onto the global stage, the stakes for being an insider get much higher. A simple mistake can cost you a deal. Consider the cautionary tale of a businesswoman named Geraldine who went to Japan. She made every mistake in the book. She wore casual jeans to a meeting, accepted a business card with one hand, and then, horror of horrors, wrote on it and stuffed it in her back pocket. In Asia, a business card is an extension of the person and must be treated with reverence. She also squealed with excitement, unaware that a low, calm voice signifies authority there. Her ignorance of these cultural rules gummed up the entire gig. Before you travel, you must research the specific taboos of your destination, or you risk offending your host before you even say hello. Back at home, sounding like an insider can actually save you money. This brings us to a technique called bluffing for bargains. Vendors often have two price lists, one for the uneducated public and one for the pros. If a painter thinks you don't know anything, he has to charge you for his time explaining the basics. But if you speak industryese, he assumes you know the rock-bottom price. Before you hire someone, find an Iggy informer, a friend in the business, to teach you the lingo. If you ask a painter about cutting in or fixing holidays, which are unpainted spots, he realizes he can't overcharge you. You are no longer a mark, you are a purchasing agent. Beyond vocabulary, you can build deep rapport by mirroring how people move and speak. This is the essence of being a copy class. People feel safest around those who are just like them. If your conversation partner uses big, expansive gestures, you should too. If they are reserved and still, calm your own body down. You must also mirror their specific choice of words. a technique known as echoing. We all have arbitrary preferences for the words we use. If a client refers to their firm, do not call it a company. If a parent talks about their toddler, do not refer to the child. Using a synonym might seem harmless, but it creates a subliminal barrier. By repeating their exact words, you tell them, "I hear you, and I am like you." Finally, extend this to your analogies through a method called potent imaging. If you are trying to explain a complex point to a gardener, talk about sowing seeds. If you are talking to a sailor, ask if an idea holds water. By using images from their world, not yours, you ensure your message lands with maximum impact. Beyond choosing the right analogies, you must also refine how you listen. We often fall into the lazy habit of vocalizing nonsense sounds like or to show we are paying attention. While better than dead silence, these grunts do not convey true understanding. To really connect, you need to employ empathizers. These are short, complete sentences that replace the grunts. Instead of say, "I can appreciate why you did that," or "That really is exciting." It forces you to listen actively and proves to the speaker that their message is actually landing. You can take this a step further by matching the sensory language they use. This is called using anatomically correct empathizers. In neurolinguistic programming, it is understood that people process the world differently, some visually, some through sound, others through feeling. You do not need to analyze their entire psyche, just match their mode of the moment. If a colleague says they can see a solution, do not tell them you hear them. Say, "I get the picture." If they say a plan rings true, tell them it sounds great. If they have a gut feeling, tell them you grasp the concept. When you align your sensory verbs with theirs, they subconsciously feel that you perceive the world exactly as they do. Once you are speaking and listening in their language, you can accelerate the feeling of intimacy. Conversations usually move through slow stages. First cliches about the weather, then facts, then feelings, and finally, we statements. This last stage, using words like we, us, and our, signals a shared identity. You can hack this progression with the premature we. Skip the early stages and use we right away. Instead of saying to a stranger, "I hope the government fixes this," say, "I hope we see some changes soon." It creates an instant, subliminal alliance. You can also manufacture the feeling of an old friendship using instant history. When you meet someone, identify a shared moment or a laugh you had early in the conversation. Later, refer back to it with a specific phrase or keyword. This acts like a private joke. It makes the relationship feel older than it is, mimicking the bond of old friends who share a history of inside references. Finally, we must address the delicate art of praise. In the modern world, clumsy flattery is viewed with suspicion. To praise effectively, you need to be subtle. One powerful method is grapevine glory. Direct compliments can feel like brown-nosing, so instead, praise someone to their friend, knowing it will get back to them. When they hear you spoke well of them when they weren't around, the praise feels far more genuine. Conversely, you can use carrier pigeon kudos. If you hear a compliment about someone, make it your mission to deliver that good news to them. You become the messenger of joy, and they associate that positive feeling with you. You can also deliver praise directly if you make it invisible. Use implied magnificence by presupposing a positive trait without stating it. For example, saying, "You've obviously been well," implies they look healthy and attractive. Or, try accidental adulation, where you slip a compliment into the middle of a sentence as if it were a throwaway comment. If you say, "Someone as fit as you would zip up these stairs, but I'm winded," the praise feels like an honest observation, rather than a calculated attempt to win favor. However, there is a time for a more direct approach when you want to make a profound, lasting impact. This brings us to the killer compliment. Unlike a casual remark about a tie or a haircut, the killer compliment targets a specific personal quality, such as someone's exquisite eyes or their palpable air of honesty. Because this type of praise is so intense, it comes with a user's manual. First, deliver it in private to avoid making others feel excluded. Second, Ensure it is absolutely credible. And third, use it sparingly, perhaps only once every 6 months for the same person, so it retains its power and doesn't feel manipulative. For your daily interactions, you need a different tool, little strokes. These are short, quick acknowledgments like "nice job" or "well done." Think of them as maintenance for your relationships. Just as children crave recognition for good behavior, adults secretly yearn for these pea-shooter compliments to feel noticed and appreciated. Timing is also critical. When someone achieves something, whether big or small, you must employ the knee-jerk, "Wow!" The window of opportunity to satisfy someone's craving for praise is narrow. You must react instantly with a, "Wow, you were great!" If you hesitate, the moment passes. Interestingly, even if their performance was lackluster, immediate praise is often the kindest route. In the euphoria of the moment, people lose their objective judgment and simply need their effort validated. Of course, communication is a two-way street, and many of us are terrible at receiving the very praise we try to give. We often deflect compliments with clumsy phrases like, "Oh, this old thing?" or "It was just luck." This inadvertently insults the giver's taste. Instead, use the boomeranging technique. Just as a boomerang returns to its thrower, you should toss the good feelings back. If someone compliments your shoes, simply say, "I'm so happy you told me, I just got them." By expressing gratitude for their kindness, you validate their opinion and keep the positive cycle going. To truly captivate a loved one or a close partner, you can play the tombstone game. This technique taps into the deep, often unspoken desire we all have to be recognized for our unique greatness. The process is simple but profound. Ask the important people in your life what they would want carved on their tombstone. What are they most proud of? Listen carefully to their exact words, whether they want to be remembered as a brilliant scientist or a man of his word. Then, weeks later, weave those specific phrases into a compliment. When you validate someone's deepest self-image using their own words, the impact is unforgettable. Now let's shift gears to a medium where your smile cannot be seen: the telephone. When you speak on the phone, you lose the visual cues that make up more than half of your personality. To compensate for this energy loss, you must translate your emotions into sound. This requires using talking gestures. Since the listener cannot see you nodding, you must replace that physical gesture with verbal noises like, "I see," "uh-huh," or "that was wise." You have to turn your nods into noise and your smiles into sound, so the person on the other end feels your engagement. You can also create intimacy across the distance with the name shower. In person, repeating someone's name too often can sound salesy, but on the phone, it acts as a verbal caress. It yanks the listener's attention back to you and recreates the familiarity lost by physical distance. Finally, consider how you answer the phone. Many people answer with a warm smile, but this can actually sound generic. Instead, try the "Oh wow, it's you" technique. Answer professionally and crisply. Then, the moment you identify the caller, let a wave of warmth and a huge smile flood your voice. This sudden shift tells the caller, "I was just professional with the world, but for you, I am delighted." It makes them feel uniquely valued and sets a positive tone for the entire conversation. Of course, while you want to welcome callers warmly, you also need to protect your own time without offending anyone. This brings us to the sneaky screen. Instead of subjecting callers to a harsh interrogation, train your staff to answer cheerfully, "Oh yes, I'll put you right through. May I tell her who's calling?" If you are unavailable, the staff returns with a sympathetic apology. This subtle sequence makes the caller feel that you genuinely missed them, rather than feeling like they were filtered out by a gatekeeper. When the roles are reversed, and you are the one making the call, you must salute the spouse or the secretary. Never treat the person who answers the phone as a mere obstacle to be overcome. Gatekeepers often have significant influence over the VIP's decisions. If you are dismissive of a spouse or an assistant, you might lose the deal before you ever speak to the decision maker. Treat them with the same respect you would accord the VIP. Once you do connect, your first move should always be to respect their schedule. Ask, "Is this a good time to talk?" You can even use the "what color is your time" technique. Ask them if their time is red, meaning they are rushed, yellow, meaning you should be quick, or green, meaning they are free to chat. This demonstrates that you value their time, which often makes them more willing to listen. If you don't reach them, remember that your voicemail greeting is a 10-second audition. Avoid generic messages that say you are away from your desk. Instead, change your greeting every single day. State the date, your location, and when you will return. This makes you sound sharp, efficient, and in demand. When leaving a message for someone else, try a cliffhanger, a mini mystery like, "I have the answer to that question you asked," which piques curiosity and compels them to call you back. Sometimes, you need to bypass the gatekeeper entirely. This is where the ho-hum caper comes in. Instead of formally asking for Ms. Big Shot, use a casual pronoun like, "Hi, is she in?" This implies familiarity, signaling to the secretary that you are an old friend rather than a solicitor. Once you are in the conversation, be hyper-aware of their environment. If you hear a dog barking or another phone ringing, stop immediately and say, "I hear your other line. Do you need to grab that?" This sensitivity distinguishes you as a top communicator who prioritizes their comfort over your pitch. To truly master these interactions, use instant replay. Record your important business conversations, checking local laws first so you can listen again later. You will catch details you missed and hear the hesitation in a yes that you didn't notice in the moment. It allows you to forget what they said and hear what they actually meant. Now let's move from the phone to the party. Successful networkers don't just wander into a room. They use a 6-point party checklist. They know who they want to meet, when to arrive, and what tools to bring, such as a pen and notepad. They understand the underlying why of the event, whether it is for business, politics, or social climbing, and they prepare conversation topics that fit the crowd. Most importantly, they make a strict choice between munching or mingling. You cannot shake hands, gesture, or maintain an open posture if you are balancing a plate of cheese and a glass of wine. Food creates a brick wall between you and others. Eat before you go so you are free to engage eyeball to eyeball and belly to belly. Once you are ready to step inside, do not just slink in and frantically look for a familiar face. You want to make an entrance that commands attention. This brings us to the technique of rubbernecking the room. When you arrive at the doorway, stop, pause, slowly survey the scene. You are not doing this to show off. You are doing it to diagnose the situation. Look at the lighting, the bar, and the flow of conversation. This dramatic pause frames you as confident and in control, much like a politician or a movie star stepping onto a stage. While you are pausing, you are also preparing to execute the next strategy. Be the chooser, not the choosee. Most people suffer from party paralysis, standing around waiting for someone else to initiate contact. Do not be one of them. Scan the crowd and ask yourself, who looks interesting? Who could I learn from? When you look intently at faces, you will find that subjective beauty emerges, and you will spot the people you actually want to meet. Once you have selected your target, simply approach them and say, "Hi, I am name, and I wanted to talk to you." It is a compliment that few can resist. To ensure they are receptive before you even speak, use your body language. This is the technique of come hither hands. Shy people tend to close themselves off, folding arms, clutching drinks, or hiding their hands. This signals stay away. Instead, adopt an open stance. Uncross your arms and let your hands hang loosely at your sides, palms slightly exposed. Showing your wrists and palms is a primal signal of vulnerability and honesty. It tells the other person you have nothing to hide and makes you instinctively more attractive and approachable. Once the conversation begins, your goal is to make the other person feel like the star of the show. This is called tracking. Every person views their own life as a movie where they are the lead character. To foster instant intimacy, you must memorize the minor details of their script. If they mention they love Sancerre wine or have a dog named Buster, file that away. Successful politicians and networkers keep a business card dossier. As soon as you leave the conversation, write these details on the back of their card. The next time you see them, ask about Buster or order them a glass of Sancerre. This proves you were truly listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak. While you are listening, you must also watch. People constantly broadcast their true feelings through physical cues, a concept the author calls eyeball selling. Imagine you have hidden cameras behind your eyes. If your companion's head is cocked and facing you, they are interested. If they turn away or start fidgeting, you are losing them. Change the subject immediately. If their arms are crossed, their mind is closed. A master salesman named Jimmy suggests handing them a prop, a photo, a brochure, anything, to physically force them to uncross their arms. By opening their body, you open their mind. Finally, what happens if the person you are talking to makes a mistake? Perhaps they spill their drink or trip over a word. The rule here is simple. See no bloopers, hear no bloopers. Socially savvy people never point out minor gaffes. They do not say, "bless you," when someone sneezes or make a scene over a dropped fork. They simply ignore it, allowing the other person to maintain their dignity. By pretending the mistake never happened, you become a safe harbor in a socially treacherous world. Being a social hero isn't just about ignoring mistakes. Sometimes it requires active rescue. Have you ever been telling a story to a group only to be interrupted by a waiter, a newcomer, or a loud noise? The conversation shifts, the moment passes, and you are left holding your unfinished thought. It feels terrible. This brings us to a technique called lend a helping tongue. When you notice someone has been cut off, wait for the interruption to settle, then turn the spotlight back to them. Simply ask, "Now, what were you saying about that trip?" Or repeat their last few words to prime the pump. This small act of kindness rescues their ego and earns you their undying gratitude. Big winners have long memories for those who help them shine. Next, let's look at how you ask for things. We often try to hide our self-interest, but savvy communicators know that everyone is constantly asking, "What's in it for me?" When you propose a meeting or ask a favor, do not camouflage your true intentions. Be transparent. Reveal exactly what you stand to gain and what they stand to gain. If you try to trick someone into a sales pitch by calling it a consultation, you destroy trust. Being upfront about your needs actually builds stronger relationships because it shows respect for the other person's intelligence. Once a favor is on the table, timing becomes critical. If someone agrees to help you, let them savor the joy of their generosity. Do not call them 5 minutes later to demand the details. Give it at least 24 hours. Rushing them makes them feel pressured rather than benevolent. Similarly, if you do a favor for someone else, do not immediately ask for a return favor. If you cash in your chips too quickly, the interaction feels like a cold transaction rather than a friendship. Allow a respectful pause so the other person can enjoy the pleasurable myth that you helped them purely out of kindness. You must also respect the sacred safe havens of social life. There are 3 places where tough talk and business pitches are strictly forbidden: parties, the dinner table, and chance encounters. Parties are for pleasantries, not confrontations. The dinner table is for bonding, not business battles. Never inflict indigestion on your dining companions by bringing up controversial topics before dessert. And if you run into a client at the supermarket, do not try to sell them something. Treat these moments as safe zones for human connection, and you will be seen as a class act. Finally, when you need to explain something or calm an upset person, remember to empty their tanks first. A listener's brain is often full of their own worries, complaints, and emotions. If you try to force your message in while they are still agitated, it will just spill over. You must let them have their say completely. Listen patiently until they run out of steam. Only when their emotional tank is drained will they have the mental space to really hear you. If you can validate their feelings, echoing their emotions rather than just their facts, you turn a potential conflict into a moment of connection. Once you have navigated their emotions and cleared the air, you might find yourself in a situation where you are the one who has blundered. When that happens, use a technique called "my goof your gain." Standard apologies are often not enough to erase the memory of a mistake. Instead, you want to correct the error so thoroughly that the injured party is actually happy you messed up. If you break a client's vase, do not just apologize. Replace it with a more beautiful one. If a business order is delayed, send the product for free along with a significant gift certificate. By overcompensating, you transform a potential grievance into a story of exceptional service and character. On the flip side, when you catch someone else in a lie or a minor transgression, Resist the urge to confront them directly. Unless it is your specific job to police them, use the technique leave an escape hatch. Cornering a liar forces them to fight or flee, which usually destroys the relationship. Instead, give them a way out that preserves their dignity. If you see a guest slip a valuable item into their pocket, you might say, "I see you are admiring that piece. The light is much better over here." Allowing them to return it without the shame of being called a thief. By letting them save face, you earn their gratitude and respect, often turning a potential enemy into a loyal ally. Another way to build deep reservoirs of goodwill is to send buttercups to people's bosses. We are quick to complain when service is bad, but we rarely document when it is good. If a clerk, waiter, or assistant helps you, ask for their supervisor's name, not to complain, but to write a glowing letter of praise. This acts as an insurance policy for your future treatment. That employee will never forget you, and you will likely receive VIP care from them forever after. In group settings, you can distinguish yourself with a technique called lead the listeners. Most people in an audience are hesitant. They wait to see if others are clapping or nodding before they join in. Be the first to applaud or validate the speaker. This marks you as a confident leader, someone who trusts their own judgment rather than following the herd. The speaker will subconsciously view you as a peer and an ally, elevating your status in the room. Finally, keep your eye on the great scorecard in the sky. Every relationship operates on an invisible balance sheet of deference and effort. If you are the one asking for a favor, or if you have recently messed up, the math changes. You must actively work to even the score, perhaps by traveling to them or picking up the check. If you ignore this balance, acting like a top dog when you are currently in debt to the relationship, you risk being thrown out of the game entirely. Ultimately, these techniques are not just isolated tricks. They are small, consistent moves that accumulate over a lifetime. By practicing them, they become habits, and those habits form your character. As the saying goes, your character is your destiny. By mastering the art of human connection, you are not just smoothing over awkward moments. You are actively shaping a successful and fulfilling life.
I hope you enjoyed this summary of the book. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. And if the summary caught your interest, you can find a link in the description to buy the full book and dive deeper into its ideas. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Did you like this format? What would you change or improve for future summaries? See you in the next video.